the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Glenn, how are you?
I'm good.
I think that we all know that lone wolf in our lives, if not us being that lone wolf ourselves. I was texting with one of my best friends, and the next day he calls me and he's like in the hospital, and he has this huge incision now on the side of his head, and it like turned into this like big crazy thing. But long story short, he said I convinced him to go into the hospital. I'm so thankful that he went. And I'm thinking about like how crazy it is that there are some people that just like truly live their lives independently and alone. And to some extent, we all do, right? Like you and I joke that I'm like a married single woman because we have our life together, and then we have very independent lives of one another. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people that have this sort of I can handle it mindset, and it's honorable, right? But a lot of the times it can also be super isolating.
Yeah, it's sometimes, we as humans, we need that human interaction with one another, and you need to find a balance of everything. And I think balance in general is important with every aspect of our lives, but being that lone wolf, sometimes it's actually good because it gets you're comfortable with being with yourself. But not only that, it's being able to have that separation from being tied into a community. And we've talked about this so many times before of being so, engrossed by what your profession is to where you don't have an identity outside of it.
Yeah, and I'm using the example that I shared at the beginning of this episode of my friend, sitting there at the hospital, and he's all by himself, and he's like calling me to fill me in on everything. And I'm reflecting back on my own personality type as it relates to this. And I think a lot of us who basically rarely, if ever, ask for help from anybody, even when we're feeling super overwhelmed. For me personally, this is very indicative of what I saw take place with my mom and her behavior. Like, she loved my dad, but she loved her independence, I think, a little bit more. Mm-hmm. She was the type that had no problem going and sitting in a restaurant, eating lunch and enjoying her own thoughts. And she did her own thing throughout the day while my dad was at work. She was the type that would like sleep in until 10, and she was a night owl, right? We all have our own personality type. She would stay up until, I don't know, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning or so, just doing her own thing. And, she enjoyed and valued that independence. But the truth about that is that there was also a lot of depression and a lot of loneliness that took place in my mom's life. And I think that a lot of that had to do with the fact that like she was a stay-at-home mom, a fantastic homemaker. And I can't remember her asking for help. We had chores. Don't get me, like, we weren't spoiled, like, bratty kids. But I don't ever remember her saying, like, hey, Ash, now it's time for you to wash your own clothes, right? Like, to her, it was her job and her responsibility to do all of those things. And when you rarely ask for help, I think that a lot of the times that can lead to a lot of burnout and even hidden resentment.
Yeah, you want to lean upon others if you have the opportunity. Now, there's a difference between just delegating everything out that you're supposed to be doing and being able to...
Unless you pay people to do
Unless you pay people to do that, because then that's their job.
I just had a hard conversation with my assistant because I paid him for something he hasn't completed yet.
See,
about a week ago.
And and you see more and more people like... That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
That's a whole other topic though. But it's one of those things you need to be able to share that workload, share with others the responsibilities and be part of a team, but be able to have your independence and your individuality as well. Because I think, and it's so funny, like I visualize your mom and I've always visualized her, like her going out to lunch on her own and going to the store and having those kind of me days per se is because she would go to these specific restaurants that your dad typically wouldn't like to go to or that she just enjoyed. And she would know the wait staff. She would know the managers there and she would talk with them, but she would also be there in her own thoughts and be comfortable with doing that. And she enjoyed that.
I was such a brat yesterday. My dad was being driven home by my older brother with his cousin as a passenger in the vehicle yesterday, me on speakerphone, and I start talking about my mom's favorite restaurant. Remember that, Dad? Mom loved that restaurant, knowing that his cousin that he's now dating, yes, you heard that right, was sitting in the back seat. So I don't know why I felt the need to share that. But a lot of times too, we might feel super ashamed. This has a lot to do with our ego, where we feel ashamed or even weak if we can't handle something on our own.
Yeah, being able to find that healthy balance between handling something on your own and sharing it with others and being able to lean upon one another it's important. You need to have balance with everything. And I think it's important to have that time to where you can go out and kind of be with your own thoughts. And I think that's where some people get uncomfortable, is you're worried about where your thoughts are going to go if you're by yourself.
A lot of times too, people hide their struggles to keep up appearances. And I want to share this. So I know, I am like online friends with somebody whose entire life and identity as a female was wrapped up into being the spouse of a police officer. And every post, every like MLM that she was ever involved in, like it was all about being a police wife. Every single thing, the type of thing to where like I just see whatever she's posted and then I just scroll, right? Because we've talked about how unhealthy that is. And one time, like, I don't know, a month ago or something, I see this post and it's like, I can't believe it happened. We're getting a divorce. And, she held on to that. I was curious, kind of nosy, and I did go through to read everything. And evidently she had held on to everything that was going on. My interpretation of that is because of the outward impression. And this is the prime example of how when you get wrapped up into the identity of your career or into the identity of your spouse's career, it is probably, I would imagine, one of the loneliest places that you can be when things don't go as planned.
Yeah, because you're not finding your own self-identity and not being able to have a balance with who you are and being comfortable with who you are as an individual.
Yeah, and it's not necessary to keep up with appearances and just pretend like everything is fine, even when it's not, because all that's going to do is create this emotional disconnection from other people, right? Like, how cool would it have been if that female had come out right away? Because obviously she needs the help and support, right? She's going to be like a single mom now, and she's going through all this other stuff, and I feel really bad for her. And like, how cool would it have been? I'm going to put myself in that situation and pretend like I'm her, right? Like, my whole life is about being a cop, and like, I'm a cop wife, and like all this stuff, like thin blue line flags everywhere. Like, that's her. And I'm not poking fun, but I kind of am, because this is really ridiculous when people live their lives this way. And like, how cool would it have been if I had come out and said, guys, I was wrong. Like, this whole thin blue line lifestyle that I've been living, that I've completely identified as for the last, I don't know, maybe 15 years or some shit, I was wrong about it, and now I need help.
Yeah, being able to ask for help from others I think that's a hard thing for especially lone wolves to do, because you're so used to just doing everything on your own. You don't think that anyone else is there to support you or build you up.
Yeah, when you reframe asking for help as a tactical strength, like in the example I just gave, like if I had seen that, I've only ever like communicated with her through posts maybe 5 times or something. I would have personally reached out to her. I may have even asked her if we can hop on a call together so I can offer my support, because I don't know why, like my heart it feels really heavy for her. But she has her own plan and like things going on now. And so I think that when we reframe asking for help as tactical strength, and we understand that we would never shame somebody else, a teammate, a partner, for calling for backup, we can apply that same logic to ourselves.
Yeah, being able to reformat our way of thinking when it comes to asking for help, or just instead of playing the victim mindset, being able to go out, ask for help, find different avenues, and not be so self-identified as this is who I am, being able to adapt and change.
And I don't know that female's inner circle, but I'm going to venture to guess that her inner circle was filled with thin blue lines. And so now what? It is so important, lonely wolf out there, for you to make sure that you're building a circle of trusted people before a crisis hits, and not ones that are indicative to like one particular lifestyle or one subset, or like not your spouse's friends, right? Like, build your own thing. It's so important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You need to have your support system, whether it's professional or personal. You need to have that.
And I think too, we can actually practice our vulnerability in like super small doses. And I'm proud of this female I shared for doing that, because it was that one like, hey guys, this happened not recently, but this is something I've been struggling with and I've been doing it all alone. Like that was a small practice of vulnerability, right? A really small dose of it. And when we start with safe conversations, we don't have to spill everything, but it's actually us just beginning to kind of open up the door.
Yeah, being able to have those conversations and start changing that mindset, changing your lone wolf status, because every wolf in a pack, or every lone wolf can find a pack. They're out there. It's just being able to look for it.
I just saw a post on Instagram, and it was like basically it was two ex-wives, and they realized that they didn't want to co-parent with their ex-husbands anymore. So they decided to co-parent together, not as a lesbian couple, but as like two women. And like you see the proficiency, like this is just like the coolest couple I've ever, not couple, they're not together, but they're cleaning the house together. There's like 6 kids total now living in the house. I'm like, this is so smart. Like guys, watch out, because if women started to get wise about this type of thing, like, and I talk about this in like a female chat that I have about us having like some kind of convent somewhere and like doing all the things, because it's just so cool when you have community, is the point. And I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.